Vayne is a champion I have always hated. When she's on my team, she's always behind, and when she's on the enemy team, she can freaking 1v9. And since I'm not nearly as bad as any of my teammates, if I play Vayne, I'll probably be able to 1v9, right? But before you get all heated in the comments, the results of this challenge may surprise you. So, for the next 10 hours, I'm gonna try to learn Vayne in 3 steps. First, normal games, second, do some research, and third, play some ranked games. I'm doing this because I'm trying to learn every champion, so one day, I can make the greatest Viego video ever. Oh yeah, and I will not be playing Vayne top this video. As a top main for years, I am not going to the dark side, I just refuse. So what runes and builds should you go on Vayne? The most common runes on Vayne are Lethal Tempo and Press the Attack. Lethal Tempo is way better in long fights and in the late game, but Press the Attack gives you surprising burst in the early game and makes your laning phase pretty decent. For your build, you have 2 main options, on hit and crit. For the on hit build, you usually build Blade of the Ruined King, Guinsoo's Rage Blade, and Wit's End as your core 3. After that, you can go a defensive item like Joshua Randuin's, and then one defensive / damage item like Bloodthirster or Terminus. For the crit build, you want to build like a crit 80 carry basically. Yuntal Wild Arrows because it's broken right now, Phantom Dancer for utility, Infinity Edge for damage, Shield Bow for survivability, and Bloodthirster for extra defense and some damage at the end. And last, the on-hit build likes Lethal Tempo as the rune a lot because you want longer fights, while crit likes Press the Attack so you can crit them and have a lot of burst. And with that, onto some normal games. So I think it's safe to say that my start on Vayne was terrible. And I'm not just saying this because the whole fight, Zilean didn't auto-attack a single time. Hit him! Hit him, please! Just hit him with an ability, please! Just auto him! No, Vayne was just way weaker than I expected early game, and we were getting camped. I probably should have played safer, but I thought with Zilean and we could poke with our longer range. I also was not used to Vayne's terrible wave clear. Honestly, I think this is the worst champion in the game at pushing waves, especially after playing Sivir and Xayah in my last 2 challenges.
Dude, I cannot push waves with this champion. This is miserable.
All of that paired with just not fully understanding Vayne's kit yet, and I had some of the worst plays I've ever had during a challenge. Luckily, it was still just my first game. And even though this kill was a bit questionable by the Blitzcrank, my next game did get off to a better start. I had a slightly better understanding of Vayne's all-in potential and realized I can't really poke in lane super well, but you can definitely run people down if they overstep. That being said, I still had no idea how Vayne's fucking E worked. This is gonna be a problem throughout the whole video, trust me. What do you mean? Overall though, I could feel myself getting better, especially because I actually finished an item this game and was starting to do a bit of damage. This extra damage caused me to limit test a little bit more. I walked under the tower like a fool and make some stupid overconfident plays. But after all the limit testing and, let's be honest, inting, late game Vayne with Cloud Soul is unfair, and I completely understand why people like playing Vayne so much. You really have this kind of main character feel while playing the champion. I mean, holy moly, I killed this Aurora in like 6 auto attacks, and I have 2 tank items. So, to recap, I've had 1 game where I lost so fast I didn't finish a single item, and a game that lasted so long I literally finished my entire build and felt like a god. In conclusion, I'm still not sure if Vayne is good or bad yet. One thing I am sure about though is I have a lot to learn about Vayne still. First, I had to learn how to deal with my terrible wave clear because constantly getting shoved under tower and getting dove like this was not a fun experience. Second, I had to learn that just because Vayne makes you feel like the main character does not mean you can 1v9, especially in the early game. Third, I had to learn how to survive the early game. If I can keep the game from getting super out of hand like in my first game, I could scale like in my second game. And fourth, I had to learn that mechanically, I was not prepared to play Vayne. With her invisibility, her difficult to land E, and a dash on like less than a 2-second cooldown, I just didn't have the fingers to play her well yet. The key word though is yet. Anyway, one of the weirdest things about Vayne is that I usually love aggressive supports like I said in my Xayah video, but with Vayne, I just wanted to farm in the early game. I did also change my barrier summoner spell to Ghost, which made me have a little bit less survivability, which did make these early fights a little bit harder. But like, I was just talking about wanting to play safer in the early game, and here's my support constantly trying to fight. The worst part was, his engages were pretty good, so I wanted to fight with him. Fast forward 20 minutes, and I had 100 CS, 8 deaths, and had once again completely thrown the early game, which made it impossible to skip. Luckily, with every game, I was getting better at Vayne mechanically, landing stuns a little bit more consistently and winning fights a little bit more often, even if I wasn't always getting the kills. And you see, at the start of the challenge, I was using my Q only offensively, but I realized that I need to use it a lot more defensively.
I'm sad that my stun didn't kill her.
Like in this fight where I used my Q to escape Vel'Koz's ult, and then used my passive movement speed to catch back up and get the kill anyway. I wasn't perfect though, and as you can see in this fight, I used my Q straight forward, which caused me to get stunned and almost lose the kill. But then, later in the same game, I used my Q as a reaction to dodge Xerath's stun, and I was able to chase him down and get the kill with my passive movement speed. After these games, I realized, dude, Vayne is hard. So I did some research on YouTube, and here's what I found. 1, be patient with your invisibility. I had a terrible habit of going invisible and then immediately auto-attacking, but your invisibility for a whole second is what makes you so strong in fights. If you rush things, you'll become visible and get hit by every ability. You can also use your invisibility from a bush and the enemy will have no idea, which means you can close a lot of distance and maybe just get a free kill. 2, Vayne's laning phase is bad. There is no doubt about that. But you can still punish enemies because Vayne has a really strong all-in. You kind of want the enemy to push you under your tower, and when you see an opportunity to chase him down with your passive movement speed, or you get a gank from your jungler, go for it. 3, but remember, Vayne is still a late game champion, so you don't really want to fight until at least level 6 or your first item, depending on matchup. I'm just saying that you don't always want to play passive, but you don't want to get overconfident either. 4, you cannot outplay everything. Vayne is an old champion and actually has a lot of stuff that's kind of hard for her to deal with now. Don't get me wrong, Vayne can definitely still pop off, but you need to rely a little bit more on timing instead of just mechanically outplaying everything. 5, use your Q to bait skill shots. Basically in lane, you want to walk in a way that makes the enemy want to hit you, like a Morgana Q. Then, when they throw it, you tumble out of the way and you win the trade because you use less mana and a way shorter cooldown. This can also work in team fights, but it is super risky. I definitely won a few fights by baiting out key abilities, but there were also a few fights where I got hit by the ability and immediately died. And 6, do not always E to try to stun somebody. You can just use it to create space, especially if the enemy jumps on top of you. I had a bad habit of waiting to use my E only for the stun, but that meant I would die sometimes with my E still up. It's just better to create space in most situations, make sure you're safe, and then use your mobility to reposition. And with that, on to some ranked games. With these tips, I felt unstoppable. I knew my damage for early all-ins, and somehow, I was winning lane in my first ranked game. My support was incredible, picking just the right moments to go in, even though I messed up a few E's here and there, but those were just my nerves. But as quickly as things started to go well, everything started to collapse. As the enemy team just kept killing me over and over again, what little confidence I had built up was just slipping through my fingers. And every time I mustered the strength to finally try and fight someone, the Jarvan was there, lurking in the shadows. This was one of the most disappointing challenges I had done so far, and I was honestly starting to give up on myself a little bit.
What do you mean I'm still in range of that?
Even my supports were giving up on me, leaving me to die 1v2 under tower so they could make plays around the map. To be fair, not every death was because of me playing Vayne. Some were just mistakes like this one.
Oh, I thought he was going to me! But that was Silas's Nocturnal. Oh my gosh, I'm an idiot.
But despite a few decent plays here and there, like this solo kill on Sylas, something was just missing. The fire that usually burns within me during these challenges was just not lit right now. Nothing I was doing seemed to be working. I decided maybe I wasn't ready for ranked yet, and I was gonna do something I have not done during any of these challenges before. I was going back to normals because this wasn't working. All of a sudden, it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. I didn't have the pressure to win anymore. I could just focus on getting better. Without the looming fear of losing LP over my head, I was quickly regaining my confidence. My fighting was cleaner, and I was way faster at committing to fights. For the first time this whole challenge, I was starting to actually enjoy myself again. After 4 straight hours of losing lane, I had forgotten what this felt like. Something just came over me with no hesitation to just flash forward and get a kill. Then, knowing exactly how to use my invisibility, I would reposition and kill Quay. And things were really starting to come together. I was even diving the enemy AD carry now instead of well, you know, being the one that got dove all the time. Don't get me wrong, there were still plenty of mechanical misplays, but at the end of the day, I am still new to Vayne and I was learning her range and her mechanics.
I thought I dodged it.
But there were also mechanically good plays, like using my E perfectly and totally doing it on purpose.
Oh, I didn't mean to perfectly cancel it, but I did.
The stage was set. After 3 of the worst ranked games I have ever played, and now 3 great normal games, I was once again ready for ranked. My confidence was back. I had no more fear when it came to fighting or playing Vayne now. I know this particular fight looked kind of bad, but hey, Nico had turned into a minion, and I didn't see the 4th melee minion until after I had gone in already. Finishing up this last normal game, something felt different. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew I was ready for rank this time. Maybe I was less stressed, or maybe I was just needing a few more games to get comfortable. Whatever it was though, I was ready for rank. Jumping into the ranked for the second time was quite literally one of the most shocking things I've ever experienced playing League of Legends. I went from somebody too scared to make a single decision to somebody who knew he was finally good enough to pull off the plays that he wanted to in the beginning, absolutely taking over fights. I would have messed this up at the beginning of the challenge, but now I was tumbling away from the enemy while still being able to shred whatever target I wanted to focus, all while knowing her damage perfectly.
What? She lived!
And despite losing the final fight because of an amazing enemy Fiddlesticks ult, I was shocked at how well I was playing, but also knowing if I had played a little bit better, I could have won this whole game. I was getting better at using my Q to poke when the enemy went for minions, which also gave me opportunities I had never had before in lane. My E's were finally starting to connect, which led to more kills and more opportunities. It's crazy how not getting destroyed in the early game made every stage of the game a lot easier. With Boots and Blade of the Ruined King, I was actually a champion. Once I got Guinsoo's Rage Blade, I was able to 1v1 pretty much anyone in the game, even going for some 1v2 outplays sometimes. And once you get a few tanky items like Jock Shell and Wit's End, I was not just a hyper carry, but I was also too tanky for anybody on the enemy team to kill. The champion basically plays itself at that point.
I didn't even play that well.
All of my entire team thought I was a mechanical god. It was awesome. I would like to say though that Vayne is still a very difficult champion, and after 7 hours of playing her, I still make a lot of mistakes. Like sometimes forgetting I need to play the early game super safe unless the enemy makes a big mistake, but now I was better at CSing with Vayne consistently, knew my item spikes better, and was just way more comfortable. Which is why what happened next was so surprising. It's no secret I don't like AD carry. I've never liked being the main character or the main carry. I've always liked being more of a playmaker. I've always struggled with pressure during sports, school, and now League of Legends when I stream in front of hundreds of people every single day. These issues are only made worse by the fact that Vayne is known to be like the main character champion. The champion known for sick 1v9 outplays in games that seem lost. So even though I was playing significantly better, there was always this lingering fear in the back of my head. My team needs me to perform, I can't throw it for them. And while I was actually performing pretty well, as the games went on, I just feel this pressure building, especially if our base was in shambles. All of which would cause me to choke in the last team fight. It happened earlier in the challenge, and it's still happening now. Missing this crucial stun on Cho'Gath with my E, which I still can't believe missed by the way, and then over chasing into the rest of the enemy team. If I'm completely honest, there was sometimes a bit of relief when I lost lane early on. It took so much of the pressure off me so I could just play my own game, eventually getting enough gold to be the carry without having to be the main focus. I mean, I started this game horribly, but when it came to big team fights near the end of the game, I was actually kind of bawling out because the enemy team was using their abilities on my teammates, not me. If only there was some like milestone I could hit to prove to myself I was a good Vayne, instead of just putting all this pressure on myself every game.
Yes!
My final hour was like the final boss of a childhood video game. All of the lessons that you learned, all the items that you collected, and all the friends you made along the way were important. My confidence was shaky because of the last few games, but I knew I had everything I needed to win this final game. And when my team needed me most, I showed up.
Is this my first penta ever? Fuck. Yes! You have no idea how long I have done these goddamn challenges. to not have a single pentakill. But we've done it. On the champion that I really did not expect to do it on.
All of that leading to
A defeat?
Yeah, sadly the enemy team snuck Baron because we had no vision, and in a panic, my team tried to start a final fight to win the game. And like so many of my other games, I couldn't handle the pressure and I wasn't able to carry the final fight. But you know what? Some games you just get outplayed. This game was super close from start to finish, and at the end of the day, you have to respect the fact that the enemy team kept their cool, made a great Baron call, and ultimately won the last 1 or 2 fights. I'm honestly super proud about how much I improved on Vayne. From being so bad I needed to stop playing ranked games to regaining my confidence and getting my first pentakill during one of these challenges. And you know what? Maybe some losses aren't that deep and I don't have to completely blame myself when something like this happens. Sure, taking accountability has helped me improve and learn champions really quickly, but maybe, just maybe, I have to take a little less accountability for my own sanity. So even though the screen says defeat, I see this as a victory. Oh yeah, I stream most days on Twitch and YouTube, so feel free to drop me a follow or like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me out a ton.